Alternate accommodations. What is a motel?
A motel comes from the term motor court hotel, and it means generally a place that's accessible from the highway. Motels started springing up as the system of roadways in the United States began to improve. Places where you could just pull off for the night became much more common, and so there was a motel industry born. Usually it's a 1 or 2 story accommodation where you can just pull right in and unpack your stuff and go sleep.
What are the advantages of staying at a motel?
Staying at a motel does have a lot of advantages, including price. Motels generally tend to be less expensive. They don't offer as many amenities as hotels. You're not going to find the fancy hand lotions or probably the ritzy shampoos, but you also aren't going to pay the same price as a hotel. Also, they tend to be more accessible. You don't have to cut through a lobby. You don't have to walk forever. You just generally drive right in, and there you are.
What is a bed and breakfast?
A bed and breakfast generally tends to be an accommodation that may have started its life as, say, a mansion, but has been converted into a place where people can sleep for the night, and then the proprietors the next morning will prepare breakfast for them. It's often very atmospheric. Some of them are very romantic. They all tend to be a much more intimate experience than a hotel or motel.
What features should I ask about when booking a bed and breakfast?
When you're booking a bed and breakfast, you should ask about the accommodations. Very often these are older places that have been transformed into a bed and breakfast. And so if you have mobility issues or accessibility issues, you should definitely ask about that. Sometimes these places are not designed for kids because oftentimes they're filled with antiques or other priceless objects, and you really don't want to have kids around. You should also ask about what the breakfast is. It can vary from a beautifully prepared multi-course affair to just a couple of stale donuts and a cup of coffee.
Are bed and breakfast rates comparable to hotel rates?
B&B rates can be very competitive with hotel and motel rates. Generally, they're a little bit more than a motel, but generally less than a hotel. They do, however, come with breakfast, which you have to consider in the price, and that adds to the value of staying at a bed and breakfast.
What are the advantages of a bed and breakfast?
Bed and breakfasts offer a much more intimate experience. So, for example, oftentimes when you arrive, you'll be greeted with cookies or an invitation to join for a cocktail, or oftentimes bed and breakfasts have a sherry hour where they'll invite you to meet and mingle with other guests. So there are sometimes group activities. Also, I think you get much more personalized service. For example, it's very easy to ask proprietors, do you have a favorite restaurant, or is there a favorite hike that you like to do? You get a much more detailed experience, I think, when you stay at a B&B.
What is a hostel?
A hostel is a lower priced accommodation often found in Europe and Asia, although sometimes in the United States, that's a shared bathroom and a dormitory style experience. It's generally budget travelers. The prices generally tend to be less. It's a convivial group. It's a like-minded group, but you're going to be staying in proximity to all of these people because it is dormitory, and you are sharing facilities with them.
Are hostels suitable only for young people and students?
I think hostels are really suitable for everybody, especially for budget travelers. People who tend to be young, I think, can put up with a lot more than people who are my age. I think I'm past my hostel years, but that's not to say that they're not great places to stay, because they are. But I think as we get older, we tend to get a little bit softer, and we may not be as willing to put up with the snoring from the bed three bunks down. So anybody can really stay, but I think young people are more tolerant of some of the things that they encounter at hostels.
What should I expect when staying at a hostel?
Hostels are as individual as the people who populate them. So some places can be real party places. They can be groups of people who are interested in particular aspects of culture. They may be people who are interested in cooking. A lot of times places that have shared kitchen facilities, you'll learn a lot about cooking. A hostel is not a place that you can stay where you can stay and lull in bed all day. There is a timeout. You do have to leave at a certain point so that they can get in there and clean. And sometimes they'll be locked down at night. You may have a curfew. You may have to be in by a certain hour. So it's a good idea when you're booking those accommodations to make sure that you understand what the rules are and how they apply to you.
What is a resort?
A resort is generally a higher-end accommodation. It's very often located in a beautiful part of the world. For example, Hawaii or Mexico have many, many resorts. And they generally focus on relaxation, and recreation.
Are resorts generally more expensive than hotels?
Resorts generally can be more expensive than hotels, sometimes because the cost of meals is included in the price, or the cost of activities is included in the price. So overall, they may be more expensive, and they may look more expensive, but if you factor those out separately, they might not be.
What is an all-inclusive resort?
An all-inclusive resort generally means that the price that you're paying includes your meals, your room, your activities, all the events, any entertainment that may be available at the resort. So you're actually paying one fee for everything. In that regard, it's sort of like a cruise ship.